Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the RMTV Women's Podcast. This is episode, no idea, haven't checked, can't remember, 180 something, 188, 89, I reckon it's around that number. But today I'm joined by Emma Sanders as we look to preview the derby upcoming against Liverpool and Everton at Goodison Park. Firstly, before we go into the podcast, I got the opportunity to go down to Solar last week to watch the Reds train, see a few preparations ahead of the derby, and I got to have a little chat with Matt Beards to get his thoughts ahead of the derby, so I'll insert that clip here. Firstly, Matt, obviously derby next week is the one that you're looking ahead to. Obviously form kind of goes a bit out the window going into derby games, but obviously off the back of the Spurs win, you must be pleased to going into that game.
Yeah, I thought Tottenham was a good performance, especially first half. I thought we showed resilience and character in the second half, but because it was a big pressure game that day, so to get the 3 points, I felt was fantastic, and it means like just before the Leicester game we can start looking up rather than obviously behind us. I've been involved in numerous Merseyside derbies, and they're fantastic events. We'll start turning our attention now and start focusing on that.
Yeah, and obviously this time around it's at Goodison. The last two at Anfield haven't obviously gone our way. Is it kind of like a chance to put that right almost, to give the fans something to, sort of us to have the bragging rights this time around?
Third time lucky, eh? Yeah, listen, it's, especially the first half at Anfield, it was tough, and I felt second half we did well. But the pressure will be flipped on Everton now. Be a role reversal of, getting to the stadium, and obviously it being I think there's 30,000 at the moment, if I'm right. So it'd be different. The pressure would be on them. We're looking forward to it.
Yeah, and just obviously I was watching training today. You've got a few players back in. Yeah. Obviously we've got Yana back on the pitch, Jazz, Shanice's there, Mel. It's important to have these players back for this game, isn't it?
Yeah, the majority of them, that was their first day back, so we have to see how they react to that first. So it's good that we've got that in today, and hopefully everyone's okay and we can start to build them over the course of next week. So good to chat to Matt just ahead of that. But firstly, Emma, obviously the Merseyside Derby, arguably one of the most important games of the season, regardless of positions in the league, etc. How are you feeling ahead of this game? Any expectations going into it? Nerves, excitement, all of the above? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, well, like you say, it's always one of the biggest games of the season, isn't it? Merseyside Derby. It doesn't really matter kind of where it's played, but the fact that it is at Goodison Park means that obviously there's going to be a lot of hype from the blue side of things, and I know that they're expecting a record crowd. They've had sell-out tickets, so should be massive numbers there. So for one, it's going to be creating history. But yeah, secondly, I think off the back of the game at Anfield where Everton sort of knocked Liverpool about there, didn't they? I think Matt Beard will be really keen to sort of at least put in a performance this time, because you can look at the result from the last derby, but the performance was it was kind of non-existent really from a Liverpool point of view. They were just so far off the level that Everton were that day that, I think they'll just be wanting to go to Goodison and just kind of at least be a bit more competitive this time around. So I'm excited in that sense, because I think, it just feels like this game is bigger in terms of there's a lot more riding on it. Obviously, the last derby was a lot earlier on in the season, wasn't it? So, perhaps it was a bit more of like a day out, which, is great for families and stuff. And I know that I probably wind people up when I say stuff like that, but I'm kind of past the day out area in women's football now, and I just want to. I'm more bothered about the actual football itself, and this game is just so much bigger than the last derby, really. So I'm just excited for it, to be honest.
Yeah, we touched on it there being at Goodison. Obviously, it was supposed to be there a couple of seasons ago, but basically a massive storm just you just couldn't go. It was too unsafe to go, so that got cancelled, and it was never rearranged because of us being in the Championship and stuff like that. So finally we can have that game at Goodison. Obviously it's been at Anfield twice, but what like how big do you think it is for the women's teams to play at the men's stadiums, as you will? Obviously it's happening a lot more frequently now, and each time you see it happen, whatever team, it's almost a sellout crowd for everyone. And like you said, we're expecting a sellout crowd at Goodison, so it's really nice to see the women's teams being able to go and play in those stadiums, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And I think we're at a point now where it's just simply what they deserve. We've gone past the point of it being like, oh, let's make this like a showcase thing. It obviously is a showcase because of the fact that it is, like you say, a record crowd each time. But I think it's starting to become more normal now. Obviously, this fixture in isolation, it's not normal to play at Goodison Park. So, there is that added excitement about it being the first time. But hopefully we'll get to the point where it is, really regular that Liverpool and Everton are playing at Anfield and they're playing at Goodison for the bigger games, because I think not only from obviously a spectator point of view, it's a lot more exciting. I think if you put yourself in the mindset of the players, especially Liverpool, who are in obviously kind of this pressure period of not quite being fully safe, although I do think they are almost there now, really. But for a lot of the season, they've kind of been in that relegation battle, and they still technically are. Playing under pressure and playing in the big moments, they're starting to get more of that experience. And I don't think you really get more pressure than playing in a Merseyside Derby in front of a sellout crowd at Goodison Park or at Anfield. So if they can make those pressure moments more common more often, then the players themselves are only going to get better at dealing with those situations. And I think that in turn obviously improves the quality of the football that you're watching as well. Nobody really wants to see, kind of what the game was like a bit at Anfield this season, where it was pretty much kind of one team who looked a bit frightened, looked a bit scared in Liverpool, and then you had an Everton team who looked like they sort of embraced the occasion. You want it to get to the point where both teams are so used to it that they both embrace the occasion, and then the quality of the football match is just better. Yeah, that's just sort of how I see it. I just think it's only a good thing.
Yeah, and I think as well, like Matt mentioned it in that clip there, where he was like, the occasion kind of got to the team last time, because the pressure is on you being at Anfield and it being a Merseyside derby, and you kind of wanted to get to the point where, like, Man United play West Ham, is it, at Old Trafford on the Saturday, so it's like, that's not a derby, that's not a huge fixture, so it's like you want to get to a stage where if Anfield or Goodison are free, out of those teams can be like, okay, well, Liverpool play Tottenham on this date. It's men's international break. Let's put it at Anfield, rather than just waiting for a mid-side derby kind of thing. Because, like you said, then it becomes more normal for players to experience playing in those environments, rather than just always having one eye on that fixture because it is a bigger stadium. So yeah, definitely, I think it's hopefully it becomes more of a regular thing moving forward. But touching on like performance wise, obviously we had a good win against Spurs last time out. Important 3 points, but it was also a really important performance from the team as well. That kind of gives you confidence going into a next game, but it's also like we've been here before. You can say confidence is, after a win is great, but it's also like, well, you just never know kind of thing, because I feel like we were in a really good position at post Chelsea earlier on when we played at Anfield, and it's like, oh no, it's like it's not gonna go your way. So, but you can take the positives from a performance against a Spurs team in a high profile game like that weekend was, heading into the next fixtures, can't you?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I totally agree with you in terms of like the momentum. I remember speaking to Matt 2 or 3 weeks ago ahead of the Spurs game, and he was pretty frustrated about the way that the calendars worked, because there was a period kind of before Christmas, I think maybe sort of mid-November, where Liverpool went on like a pretty decent run of form, and then just didn't play for ages, and then lost like a couple of games, didn't play for ages, beat Spurs. I think it would have been 2 weeks since that game. So it is hard to then, you kind of have that massive high, but then, like I say, it's 2 weeks since it. So how much really, do you gain from that?
That high for 2 weeks, can you?
No, exactly. So from a mentality point of view, it's a bit of a shame that you can't really build on that. But I do 100% agree the fact that it was obviously a high pressure match. And yeah, obviously the table now looks a lot different than what it did before. There's a lot more kind of relaxation around the relegation situation. Like I say, I still don't think they're 100% safe, but I certainly would put them in one of the categories of a team that looks like they're more likely to stay up now than go down. That will obviously help. It means the players can play with a little bit more freedom, and the shackles are probably off a little bit. It's not a case of we can't lose this game. It'll be more, let's go and win this game, if that makes sense. Whereas in a relegation battle, it's just, we'll take any point. Whereas now you do feel that they almost can afford to lose. So in that way, they can go for all, they can gamble out and go for 3 points as opposed to one. So I do think that changes things. And then, like you say, the fact that they were off the back of the disappointing result to Leicester, they then have that big game against Tottenham, and they delivered and obviously got the 3 points, and the manner in which they did it, where they had to sort of grind out, created a lot more chances. I think deserved to win the game. I think that's the ideal sort of situation going into the Everton game.
Yeah,
you just wish that it was 4 days before or 5 days before as opposed to 2 weeks before.
Yeah, that's like the most frustrating thing, and I mentioned it so many times. I feel like on these podcasts, like we always seem to hit a good run of form and a good bit of momentum, and then bang, there's an international break or there's 2 weeks off because you're not in a cup or whatever. It's like it's so frustrating to think about. But then looking at, like, I've got the table in front of me here. So Everton are in 6th, we're in 8th. There's 6 points separating us, with West Ham in the middle on 16. So you're looking at that from a Liverpool perspective, thinking if you go and win on Friday night, you're then on 17 points. That puts you in, hopefully, if West Ham get beat on the Saturday, that puts you in a good space, really. So
yeah.
1 minute you're talking about, like, you don't know how relegation's going to go, if you're safe, and then you could go and win a match, and those 3 points can literally move you up the table so far that you're like, oh wow, it's okay. So that's like the thing with women's football, because the league's so small, the games come like thick and fast when you play, that you can't keep up sometimes. You don't, your emotions just don't know what to do, whether you don't know whether you're nervous, whether you're excited, you've got no idea. So it's like, I think that's kind of going to be in the mind as well on Friday, of don't get beat because we can't lose a Merseyside Derby again. But then also, if we win, we can get those 3 extra points on the boards. That puts us in a much better position than you are now. So it's kind of like, although you don't want to stress people out and go, oh, well, you've just got to go and enjoy the occasion and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like, you need to go and win this game, because there's a lot more riding on it than just bragging rights of winning a Merseyside Derby, really, isn't there?
Yeah, although I do feel like it's almost like playing a game of snakes and ladders, where you can climb up the big ladder and like skip like 2 rows, or you can climb up like the small one and like you're doing okay. Yeah, I feel like that's sort of where we're at, where if Liverpool don't win, obviously the bragging rights and the fact that they lose 2 Merseyside derbies isn't a good thing, and obviously there's no way that there's anyone in that dressing room that wants to lose. But in terms of the actual table and where Liverpool are, it's not a complete disaster. And like the pressure is obviously on Everton because they have been the better performing team. They're higher ranked in the table, so they're at home. So it's like a case of, they're almost expected to win. So yeah, that's no excuse for Liverpool, but it is almost, that's kind of what I mean by, I think, like, you might as well take the risk and go for the big ladder on the snakes and ladder, and potentially go from being semi-safe to then being okay. I feel like we're pretty safe now in the table if they get the win. So yeah, I think that's the one thing that I would like to see, is almost, I'd prefer them to take a risk and go for it, be brave on the ball and try and make things happen. And potentially, it's football, anything can happen. They could concede a late goal, but I'd rather they do that and take risks and be brave than sit back and be a little bit negative and just see what happens and try and nick something. I'd rather them, take it in their own hands and go for it. I think that's kind of what I want to see, really.
Yeah, definitely. Oh God, I don't know what to think. I've got no idea. I hate the build up to these things because I'm just like, I hate to go. Yeah, you'll be fine, but deep down, you've just got that little bit of you
Yeah,
just don't know. It's a bit unsettling, but we'll see.
especially with all the injuries as well. Like, you just hope that Liverpool have
Yeah.
got a fresh squad.
Well, there was Yana Daniels, Jazz Matthews, Lawley, and Van der Sanden were all back in training. So
Yeah,
although be it that's probably only the first session, you'd like to think they've got the ads this week to kind of build up into that. They might not feature, but if they're there and available and can play, then you've got to play in these situations. So fingers crossed, it is
yeah,
pretty much a full squad. But a few, I think Nifar, he's still out, and I think obviously Leanne Kernan's still out and stuff. So we'll
yeah,
see what the situation is with a few of them, but fingers crossed it's a full squad. But yeah, I think that's a good note to end on. We won't ramble on anymore and get me more nervous. I was fine about it until we started talking about it. And I'm like, oh,
sorry.
but yeah, thank you very much for doing this, Emma. As always, always there to
Thanks.
save the day. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. Remember to like the video, comment, subscribe to the channel. Check out all of our socials and stuff as well, because there'll be loads of stuff on there pre-derby. But yeah, thank you very much, and we'll see you all next time with a new podcast. Bye.
Bye.